We're live. All right, just got the thumbs up. Welcome to Funding Fridays on the Owwll app. We are sponsored by Celsius and Owwll. We're happy to be here for Funding Fridays. This is our inaugural episode. We have two heavyweights with me right here. You can look up their bios on the Owwll app. Ryan Ochs and Walter O'Leary. And we are here to take your calls. We're experienced venture capitalists, private equity professionals, and people who really have good network. And I'm proud to be flanked by two heavyweights here, Walter and Ryan. Thank you very much. I'd give you a round of applause, but it's just us. But thank you. Ryan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Al. Thanks to Owwll and Celsius for hosting us today. Happy Friday to everyone. Excited to kick off Funding Fridays. I've invested and advised in over 150 companies in the $50 to $1 billion of revenue space. Principally, have looked at smaller companies too. It's probably going to be a little bit more of our domain focus, I imagine, today. So excited to share our knowledge and ideas, criticism, feedback, and maybe investment opportunities with prospective entrepreneurs. So thanks again, Sal, for hosting and for letting me hang along you and Walter.
I appreciate that. Yeah, so we are member supported here on the Owwll app. So if you have any questions, you want to call in through the Owwll app. My good friend Walter O'Leary over here, the better O'Leary. Thank you for joining us, fellow Goldman alum. This is amazing, guys. Go ahead.
Thank you, Sal. Thank you, Celsius, Owwll, Boca. I had a very nice lunch at 60 Vines, and it's lovely to be north of the border. My name is Walter O'Leary. I wear two hats currently. I'm an angel. I actually take positions in my investments, and I help operate, unlike most other VCs. So I keep a close eye on my investments. And I also wear an adjunct faculty hat at the University of Miami Herbert Business School. I teach a fintech class, and I'm assisting with the private equity because I'm off this semester, but I'll be teaching again fintech in the fall. And run into students all the time with their pitches, their business plans. And so it's always an issue of how do I get funded? And I turn it around and I say, how do you make yourself fundable? And that's, I think, the key theme here that we're going to talk about today. My background is very broad. I started out in capital markets, as Sal mentioned, equity capital markets, taking companies public, IPOs, secondaries, both New York and London. I was supposed to be a 3-year stint, ended up being 12. So I'm very familiar with Europe and the launch of the euro and the calamity now that Europe is facing, especially the UK. And did full circle coming from Switzerland to Miami in 2012 and really came here. A lot of people were questioning if I was retired because it was very sleepy back then, and started helping develop the tech ecosystem in Miami. So I've seen it all in Miami, from boom bust, NFTs, you name it, crypto, and now, a lot of interest in private credit. So that's where I'm kind of focusing on infrastructure investments, power. Power is a new gold, and data. Data is the hottest commodity out there. So those are my themes today. And I'm happy to take any questions on anything because I see pretty much everything.
Yeah, I mean, Miami is an interesting ecosystem in and of itself. There's a lot of people who have come here since the pandemic, but it's also changed a lot since Silicon Valley Bank went under, or not under, but since they had those problems. I remember when I first moved here 2 months ago, they had the best parties in Brickell. I mean, the best parties. But then, things happened, and then Andreessen Horowitz recently left. So, the ecosystem's changed a little bit. But I think you have some developers now in Palm Beach that are trying to resurrect that, I think, to the point like Stephen Ross, I think, was talking about that. So there's going to be a resurgence, I think. It's just, there's just a lot of people that moved to Miami in a very quick period of time. And, they're trying to put themselves together as the forefront, but it's, at some point it's going to come into its own. But, it's had its bump and bruises, that's for certain.
Yeah, it's all part of growing up.
Yeah.
I say Miami is a teenager with pimples and braces, so it's still growing. There's still a lot of potential there.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good point. And then we have, the one thing I like about being in Miami, especially in Southern Florida, is that there's so many conferences. There's eMerge coming up. There's, starting from Art Basel, there was, even things like independent sponsors, Latin American Black Bull Conference last week. And I also went to Florida Ventures too. Yeah, I saw. Yeah, iConnections, which is huge. Yeah, I mean iConnections, which is one of the more premier conferences for emerging managers to go to and founders, which is Amazing.
And we had the Florida Venture Capital conference.
That was
a little bit over
Monday
a
and
week ago.
Tuesday last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Just
it
very,
is.
very good.
It's great because, being in New York, everybody comes to me. Everybody comes to Miami. I don't have to worry about driving anywhere. I mean, you live on the beach, but it's much more. It facilitates a lot more business because people come down here, and people really want to have a good time, but they also want a little bit of business, but they want a good time, and they leave feeling good. And it's a great way to foster a relationship when somebody leaves you feeling good.
Agreed.
I was going to ask Walter, if
Yeah.
Miami is a teenager with pimples and braces, then what's New York?
Oh, well, it's going through its own resurgence, right?
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a question of, talent. There are a lot of New Yorkers that came to Miami that have gone back.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone, especially come summertime when that heat and humidity hit and the hurricanes, scare the bejesus out of them. That's when they start tailing back, I think. But look, it's very porous. And I keep saying that talent will always chase opportunity.
Mhm.
Well
And
said.
that's true. Look at Citadel. They have not only announced corporate headquarters in Miami, but they have hired like 20 weather forecast specialists now that NOAA's laying off, and they're making such a huge market in weather forecasting.
Mhm.
Half of their profits and their funds, like 8 billion out of 16, was made from commodities trading. That's energy, agro, you name it. And so it's a big play they're making in Miami, and it's basically they're getting talent.
So New York's a septuagenarian with a great plastic surgeon and a really good internal medicine doctor to keep them young, something like that.
Yeah, well, it's a good market. Look, I've got a lot of friends there. Like
Yeah.
Sal, I've spent quite a lot of time both working and not seeing the sunshine.
Mhm.
But look, every market has its niche, and I think the niche of Miami is definitely the cultural assimilation, the variety, and that sparks creativity. That's really quite a unique angle that AI is not going to take away.
Yeah.
That creativity and those intellectual sort of assimilations from different cultures, because that's what it takes to do business. You travel in Middle East and Asia, Sal will tell you, it's a lot of personality and
Yeah.
fit. And I'm on the phone with, I was just mentioning, with Singapore till midnight last night, and they kept saying, oh, it's too late. I'm like, no, it's not too late. I'm here for you. You're helping me out, whatever you need, and tomorrow's another day. And that's the way that they approach it. If you're available, then they're happy to do business with you.
Well, think about how lucky we are. We're live right now to theoretically the world, but to be able to have instant connectivity to folks thousands of miles away, oceans away, that want to do business in the greatest capital markets country in the world, and with folks with your background and expertise is a privilege. And sometimes I think we take it for granted.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So let's start this firework off. Do you think there will be a flood of capital, Walter, with the $5 million visas that the Trump administration is giving away? And do you think that's going to drive anything? And will Miami be a beneficiary of that? Are we going to see a lot of sheiks walking around in Brickell?
Look, the reality is that people that are willing to spend $5 million, they were previously doing EB-5 visas, so it's just another veil. Money always finds a way, living in south of Fifth, Miami Beach, I see wealthy Indians, wealthy Chinese, wealthy Russians. They've been here and they're arriving. So it's not like there's a border and, friction. It's very porous, because if you have money, you have contacts, you have lawyers and people that make it happen. And that's the reality. This is all a veil, I think.
Okay.
Interesting take. The EB-5 program was relatively situated under the radar. And I hear your argument that access to capital was always going to be a conduit for that program, or elsewise access to visas. But even really sophisticated folks in the ecosystem, finance cognoscente, weren't super aware that they could take EB-5 financing. So this perhaps simplifies it. I may take the other end of the coin, that a more simplified visa program that doesn't require a project for funding like the EB-5 did, or people to sign up for EB-5 accessibility and funds, maybe makes it a little bit more top of mind, and perhaps it brings more capital and more people in. But point taken, that if you had access to money, there always was a way.
Yeah. I just think, like with EB-5 in New York, there was just a lot, like some of the worst projects in the world. And it just seemed to me like it was just like people were just putting their money into the EB-5, into these projects. Like one of them was the New York Wheel, and it was supposed to be in Staten Island. I don't know if you ever heard this story, but it made it around the family office circles. And this one guy was promoting it, and he raised like $5 million for it, but it never got built.
But
They got their visas.
Yeah, I was going to say visas were granted.
Right. Yeah. That's the only return on investment, really. It's really interesting to see how the whole dynamics shake out too. But I think there's going to be a flood of capital coming over here soon. I think the Trump administration has paved the way for that. Ostensibly, he wants us to be, the dollar is still going to be king. There was a lot of people who were talking about de-dollarization. I've never seen that. Right. I mean, are you going to save for your son's education in Russian rubles or in the American dollar? But
actually, that's a really interesting topic, and I actually want to steer a little bit more to the fintech space, which is a space that I know a little bit about. So this whole new genre of stable coins, and I was listening to Patrick Collison from Stripe in front of Congress explaining the acquisition to get into payments, but payments via stablecoin USDC. And I think this is an amazing new initiative that all banks are on board, because the reality is that floating money, waiting for ACHs 3 days is ridiculous. This should be instantaneous. And, Bitcoin doesn't quite get there. There's a lot of roadblocks, and you got to make sure you get those, keys correct. If not, you could be in trouble. Not your coins if you don't have it in your wallet. People don't trust exchanges anymore. So I think this whole stable coin phenomena is here to stay. And, people are kind of, saying, well, is that going to lead to CBDCs, which are central bank digital currencies? I say, look, this is very different. Okay. Stable coins are an immediate way to make payments cross border. And you can do it in dollars. You can do it in euros. You can do it in any currency that the stable coin is backed by. And it's extremely efficient. All the banks have embraced it. I mean, I've been to conferences 5-6 years ago when JP Morgan was already investing in this space, even though Jamie Dimon was poo-pooing the whole idea of, crypto and what have you. So they've been investing in this space, and they're with the JP Morgan coin, they're very savvy, and they're doing transactions already in fixed income and in credit markets. So I think this is now going to go from wholesale to retail. And this is the power, when you buy things online, you can now use stable coins, and is a very efficient. I mean, it's instantaneous, and it's very low cost, and it's super fast. So I'm very bullish on that. And I think Stripe has an amazing business model ahead. And it's a shame that they're going to stay private, but you know them very well.
As an investor in Stripe, yes,
Yeah.
I get that. But I'm on board with you too. Somebody just sent me a book he co-authored, Marco Vincenzo, and it's called The Bitcoin Super Cycle. I haven't read it yet. I'm reading the one you gave me first.
Oh yeah, Malcolm Gladwell's.
But I have not read that book yet. But I've become much more confident in this, because if you look at the economy right now, and I know we're going through a lot of changes with Dodge and things like that, that the American dollar is not, it's depreciating in value currently, and it always has been and always will be. And I think this could be something that could save a lot of, a lot of societies, actually.
I'm glad you said depreciating. There are a lot of pundits out there that go into the devaluing. I'm like,
no, it's depreciating.
There's no
use
peg.
The right, professor,
yeah, you
the
did.
Right word?
Very good.
Okay.
Listen, I correct a lot of journalists, and this is the thing. So you look at the dollar, look at a DXY index. That will give you a good relative performance versus a basket of other currencies. It's been it has been selling recently, but it's not at levels that I would be concerned about. Obviously, one of the key policies that Trump has now is actually trying to play the balance of trade, right? Pay the deficit down. And I think export is going to be a big component of that, although the tariffs clearly don't fit in well initially. I think that's saber rattling and trying to get the best terms possible. But ideally, I think we're trying to promote our exports, and the way to do that is with a weaker dollar. I mean, that's just econ 101.
It is. Ryan, in private equity, you have to worry about any of this stuff?
Of course, I think the volatility and unpredictability of the Trump administration and its effects on international trade are de jure, and for the right reasons. So trade has butterfly effects, and these economic policies have butterfly effects that are tough to really predict. They can hockey puck in many different ways. And what one tariff can do on steel can permeate through labor markets and construction, which can permeate into financing markets in lumber and the like, which also are being affected by tariffs. And these things have knock-on effects that are really tough for us to predict and tough for us to see. So it absolutely does. And private markets are responding by being impatient, and understandably so, or patient, I should say, to take the other end of the coin, meaning not going to put capital out where I don't necessarily fully parse the risk yet. And as a result, people are waiting to see as opposed to rushing to put capital to work.
Definitely. And there's a lot of selling still going on. So, it's a time to kind of reevaluate and maybe rebalance your portfolios. But listen, I'm a long-term bull, and I see any correction and pullback as an opportunity to do some bottom fishing and to get some companies that are decently valued. And this has been our conversation,
Yeah.
Sal, for a while.
Yeah.
I like some of the companies that you're working with, but it's so expensive still.
It is expensive, but
Yeah.
that's what this. I'm glad you bring it up. There's an interesting phenomenon, and it's kind of controversial, but a lot of people after the pandemic got rich very quickly.
Oh, sure. The
Yeah.
stimulus,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Fiscal stimulus.
And so that just unleashed a tremendous amount of liquidity into the markets and everything. I mean, and to me, it's like I never thought I'd be talking about trillion-dollar companies, coming, from Goldman in the late 90s. Like, it was like $1 billion. That was a big deal. Now it's like Saudi Aramco, you have Amazon, Apple at that level too. And, Tesla pulled back to 220. I picked up a few of those shares, right? I mean, maybe, I don't know what you think. Yeah, it's richly valued, but the money coming into this, I think, is just going to continue to be, a watershed moment, I think.
Yeah,
Capital flows.
Stimulus, boredom, access to capital, and
not spending it, right? They're at home. They're not going to spend it in restaurants or traveling because they can't go anywhere. So they hoarded it and spent it on speculative investments and
NFTs.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and
coins.
The speculative investments aside, thousands of baby boomers are retiring every day. This is somewhat self-serving. It engenders a lot of my business flows, as a lot of those folks are my clients. But the thousands of baby boomers retiring who have nothing better to do, have scores of capital sitting, who aren't necessarily against popular convention, saying at this point in my life, I'm going to put my dollars into fixed income earning assets. They're living longer. They see opportunity to put capital to work and create wealth for their progeny. So more global wealth was created in the last 60 years than in any other time in recorded human history, in part because of the Bretton Woods system and the like, which we're dovetailing a little bit into geopolitics a little bit too much. But,
that's fine. I like that.
But
good. Yeah.
Right. But you get my point.
Yeah.
We've created a lot of global capital, which has flown into these assets. And what's that? Are we getting a call already?
Oh, we have a call already. Okay, let's pick it up. Hello, caller. Thank you for calling us. Well, once the patch is in, we're good. Hello, caller. Welcome. Thank you for using the Owwll app, sponsored by Celsius. What's your name? Where are you from?
Happy Friday. My name is Daniel Hall, and I'm from Maryland.
Maryland. Okay, great.
Hi, Daniel. Where in Maryland?
Hagerstown.
Right on.
Very cool.
Hope you guys know where that is. Yeah.
Vaguely. You're going to have to give us a little bit more certainty. I went to school in D.C., so I spent some time in the DMV. I've been to Baltimore, but where's Hagerstown in relation to that?
Baltimore is not too far.
It is west of Baltimore, right down 70. It's about an hour outside of Baltimore.
Yeah. I'm a Hopkins alum, for what it's worth.
Walter really should know more than me. He gets a little bit more of a shaft for not fully understanding where Hagerstown is.
Yeah. Oh, good. So what's your question?
So what if I told you guys a 4-year-old will change the world?
I might believe you.
I was sitting in our living room, and our daughter, who was severely drug and alcohol exposed in utero, she's adopted. She spent 2 weeks in detox after she was born, and within about 4.5 months, part of her small intestines had died. So a lot of meltdowns, a lot of self-regulation issues. And one day she was throwing this massive screamer, and it just went silent. Nothing. My wife and I looked at her, and we were like, where did she go? Guys, she came back 15 minutes later with this picture of her and I holding hands, but my mouth was huge. So you can imagine what she thought of me that day. Probably yelling and screaming a little bit too much at her. And we were going back and forth. Long story short, she had gone to her room for 15 minutes, took 15 minutes out of her life, made it about me. She came back and she said, Daddy, I am sorry. I am so sorry. And she asked if she could hang it in my office. Took me 3 years, but within that 3-year time frame, I came up with a solution to vanity metrics, a solution that actually calculates how much time that we're spending together in the comments on social media. Not the millions of likes, not the thousands of comments, but actually how much time we're spending. Just like she took 15 minutes out of her life to make it about me, we can now calculate how much time people are spending with us on social media. So when you look at reciprocity, how much time I'm spending with you, and I see Jason just handed you the book. That's the book that I wrote because I found that AI was doing a lot of the commenting and a lot of the interacting. And, I've always wanted to put it out into the world, but I felt like the world wasn't ready for it. And I'm an adopted dad of 6 children, all with remarkable special abilities. And, we don't have the funding to implement something like this into the world. But I've proven it out on social media, on LinkedIn, that people want this. I just don't know how to put it to market. That is my book. Just, yes. So I'm going to let you guys go. I took up my 4 minutes here, and ask me some questions. Owwll is in chapter 8, actually, by the way.
What is it? Owwll?
Chapter 8 in his book.
Oh, okay.
Well, God bless you, Daniel, for your work.
Yeah.
6.
That
Oh,
sounds.
and thank you for
that's neat.
It
and
sounded
thank
like
you.
a bankruptcy. I was like, what?
Yeah, and thank you for sharing your story.
Sorry.
Thank you for sharing
You're
your story
welcome.
and your kids' stories. Can you help me understand what exactly you mean by tracking time? Is this some sort of automated timing mechanism that says I spent X amount of minutes targeting a certain person on social media? Is that where you're trying to steer this towards?
Here's a great example, and it's best, giving you an example. It is an incredible gal in Baltimore. Her name is Rachel Drucken-Miller. She's a singer. She's an author. She does a lot of public speaking. She said, Dan, I want to find out how much time people are spending with me. So she gave me the links to all of her posts on LinkedIn for 2022. I ran my software through her posts, and it returned how much time each individual creator that had engaged with her in the comments spent typing that comment. So it's an estimated value of how much time actually somebody is spending typing that comment. Over the course of 2022, one person, Toby Kester, in her tribe, spent over 10 hours out of her life making it about Rachel. We don't see that on social media, and that just blows my mind. Time is such a precious commodity for us, and it's so underappreciated. If I drop a comment and I take, a couple minutes out of my life, I'm never going to get that time back. And that's what we calculate. And it doesn't exist.
And why wouldn't Instagram or LinkedIn or name your social media platform be able to track this themselves on the back end?
They should be able to. It's super easy to do. It's a simple algorithm. I tried to get it patented, but the patent office said it was too simple. So they should be doing this. All socials should be doing this. But it's hard for them to do it now because it's so convoluted with the top 100 list of lies that you have sitting in front of you, because AI is doing a lot of that commenting. It's not a real person.
So what value does this really drive? Is it the appreciation of time put together to put together a post? What are we really driving at right here?
If I may, this sounds like a Spotify Wrapped for social media interaction. Is that fair?
Yeah, Janet spent 8 minutes making a post on your Instagram. Is that what you're saying?
That's what it sounds like.
Okay.
Yes. But if you aggregate it over time, those minutes turn into hours, turn into days, But on the flip side of that, the book actually reveals what the fake part of this is, which is politicians, influencers, gurus to the stars. They're all using fake engagement for social proof. And on the flip side of that, it's becoming a big social spoof.
Mm.
So I almost went to market with my product, and I pulled it back because I saw what was happening with artificial intelligence and all the fakery that was out there. So I pulled it back. I just felt like humanity wasn't ready for this yet. So I mean, when you talk about getting investors, it wasn't the right time. And I'm hoping that the book, which we've given hundreds of copies away to just. It's not about the money. It's about helping put the human back in humanity. And that's what I was intending to do with the story of our daughter when I originally created this. But yes, I agree to see how much time we're spending as humans with each other on social media by calculating the amount of time that we're spending together and letting when creators see that, you get the feel good, you get those dose chemicals that are going through your brain, the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin, the endorphins, all of them light up the brain for the creator. Mm. And then what do? Is they go and they shout it out to their tribe. And those people now get those feel-good chemicals. It's just a reciprocal mental health push.
We're at 30. We're at 35 seconds left. Here's the best idea I have for you. It sounds like you're teasing at something that could be interesting, where you're creating some sort of loyalty engagement cross-platform for folks. So if I were to refine your pitch, I would say maybe let's try to find a way to track a fan's journey across TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, other social media platforms to create some sort of engagement score across the platform. That data. Some sort of data tracking a individual user's engagement. That's perhaps the best I could come up with.
Another thing that I'm thinking about, and this is just my idea, I think what's happening is that you could probably check to use that as far as authenticity of the post, right? If it's automatically and then somebody shoots it up. I see that a lot on LinkedIn where people just regurgitate something I posted. Doesn't really make sense, but it seems as though that that could be used as sort of like an authenticity score, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we got another one. Imitation's the best form of flattery, Sal. Don't forget that.
Yeah, I know. We got another one. Is this another call coming in? Welcome to Funding Fridays on the Owwll App. Yes. Sponsored by Celsius. I'm Sal Buscemi, flanked here with Walter O'Leary and Ryan Ochs. We're here to answer your questions. You are being recorded live.
Ron?
Great. Yeah, great, guys. How are you? Hey, Salvatore. Hey, Rod. Hey, Walter. How you guys doing?
Yo.
Great stuff.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday, guys. Hey, listen, thanks for doing this. I'll jump right in. My name's Rod Brooks. I'm here in Memphis, Tennessee. God's country here.
I believe it. I believe it in your voice. Yes.
Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, absolutely. So, listen, guys, I'm in the sort of the social goods space. I helped co-found and lead what's called a community development financial institution, or CDFI, here in Memphis. And
I know
we
what
provide,
a CDFI is. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So my question is, I'm actually launching a new fund that's kind of focused more in the Mississippi Delta, where we've got kind of substantial impacts around access to capital. I know you guys were talking about that from the market standpoint, but given that you guys are familiar with the space as a CDFI, I guess my question is kind of what aspects of that from a fintech or kind of impact-driven lending perspective are you guys currently exploring at your respective companies?
Well, all I can tell you is that there's funds out there that focus on what they call like the non-core, first-tier markets, like Revolution, for example. This is Steve Case's sort of focus, which is trying to bring capital to the cities that are perhaps not on the top of everyone's mind. And I know a good friend of mine that's there, and precisely what they look at is the impact that capital can have in these markets that don't get that much capital. And so what you see is from a lower base, a significant growth. in just great ideas that they just need a little bit of fuel. So I think you should contact specifically funds that don't go to the usual markets of New York, San Francisco, Chicago, but rather focus on the second tier and third tier markets. And by the way, Steve Case's book is called 3.0, I believe. I read it a long time ago, but it's specifically targeting cities that have great ideas and great startups, but they maybe don't have access to capital. So that's just the first thought that I had. But maybe my colleagues here.
I'm familiar
Yeah,
with.
that's great.
Yeah, the first deal I ever did after leaving Goldman as an independent sponsor was that I bought 73 townhomes and triplexes out of foreclosure in not Tupelo, but University of Mississippi Ole Miss, called
Oh, yeah.
Saddle River.
Awesome.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
And
Oxford.
yeah, Oxford. Yeah. So I used to stay in Germantown with a guy who was showing it to me, and then we drive down
Oh, great.
to there.
That's awesome.
I think you have one of the things I would hit up quickly, and just from my understanding, is that the fealty with their alma mater of the University of Ole Miss, you should probably go to them to see if they can help you as well. I mean, they have fanatic alumni, they have coffers that are full, right? And then also go to the city too as well. And I think if you partner with that, and they all have those type of emerging type of manager type of platforms, because they're all trying to get their students into business and entrepreneurship. I think that could be a good first start if you can cultivate a relationship there.
Yeah, and actually,
Yeah, no, thank you.
I want to jump on that. So if you look at SoFi,
Yeah.
the way they started is with the university affinity around Stanford, and they basically figured out that the alums would be more likely to fund current student business plans, and they would hold them to it because they're alums. So they would have a loyalty, if you will, to do the right thing. So that affinity with universities is extremely powerful, tapping into the alumni network, because they want to give, and who better than to give to someone younger than them that went through the same process that they went through, right? So SoFi was built around that premise. And the book that I was thinking about is called Third Wave, not 3.0.
Third Wave.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So
Third Wave.
Ron, I think your question is around how are we looking at putting capital in areas that traditionally haven't seen capital flows? And
Yes.
a couple of things. One, we live in the world of infinite leverage right now, which means infinite access, which means if there's an entrepreneur in Mississippi who wants access to capital, they theoretically can be able to get it, perhaps by calling on into the show, perhaps by looking to the right funding sources such as yours. So I think that's one.
Sure.
Now, secondly, I think as a risk return opportunity, I like going where other people aren't. Walter, I've always liked that. Capital's concentrated usually on the coast and usually into a very small amount of states. There are good businesses everywhere. I've invested in businesses across the country, including in parts of the country that don't include the coast. And I've always found really good opportunity there. So my view is if you have a good business that needs to exist, capital can find it. And I've always personally loved investing in those types of opportunities. So I would say absolutely I'm looking in those areas, and absolutely know people who do look in those areas in these parts of the country that are, call it, less trafficked, because I think there's just better opportunity there, candidly. So those two things I wanted to hammer home to you.
And better valuations.
Yeah.
And better valuations. Yeah.
Yeah. No, gentlemen, this is all fantastic. What would be kind of a next step if we want to maybe explore this a little further?
What exactly are you looking for? Capital for your CDFI, or be more specific? If you come on the show, you got to come with an ask.
Yeah, what's your pitch, right?
Yeah.
What are you asking for, and what are you offering in return?
Yeah, absolutely. My pitch is I'm raising $10 million at a $100 million valuation
10%.
for this for my new CDFI, and we're specifically going to work in 77 counties here in this Mississippi Delta between Eastern Arkansas, West Tennessee, and North Mississippi. So what you all said regarding the college piece is actually right on time. We have a great partnership with the University of Memphis and Truist Bank in a very robust program that we've been doing now for about a year and a half. So we have the bones to be able to build on that, and would love to be able to explore and talk numbers.
Ron, are you licensed? Is your CDFI licensed?
Yes, we're certified CDFI by the Department of Treasury.
Okay. All right. And what capital base do you have currently?
Currently, we have a active loan fund of $3 million, and in terms of unrestricted capital for lending, just under $5 million.
Okay.
Sure.
And, that's fantastic. And your capital sources are who? These banks?
So they're the banks, Truist, Pinnacle Financial Partners, First Horizon Bank, some of those, Regions Bank, as well as the Kresge Foundation and the Cerna Foundation
Okay, and
are some of our top ones.
how are you sourcing loans? Give me an give us an example quickly of a deal that you've funded already.
Yeah, so Memphis Tire Recyclers is in the South Memphis area. And there were two gentlemen that once worked for the city. They started a tire recycling business about 2 years ago, and they've now since grown that to over 2 million in revenue. And we provided capital for them. It was actually referred by one of our local county commissioners, and they were seeking capital. That they, of course, underserved by the banks as a startup, and we were able to fund the purchase of their current location, initial location. So. They went from renters to owners through our capital.
And the 10 million would be used to what?
So the 10 million would be strictly for loan capital. So we would put that out, and our model in leveraging fintech, we have a fintech actually in Raleigh Durham that we're going to partner with as a third party for deployment. So it'd be for deploying loans or 300,000 or less for essentially, kind of micro businesses under $1 million in revenue.
And what sort of rates are you lending at on this capital?
So looking to lend at between 4% and 8%, kind of using a risk matrix.
4%.
Yes.
Cheap.
That's very cheap.
Yeah, that the U.S. government borrows at 4% on theoretically risk-free rate.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
help us bridge that, because if we're talking about startup loans to companies such as the one you described, that starts to feel a little bit more equity-like.
Yeah, but hold on a second. You've got an angle here, which is recycling. I'm sure there's a county or a state opportunity fund that focuses on taking some of the waste and doing something productive with it. I mean, I know here in Miami, we've funded anything from 3D printing reefs to I know a company that's looking at sargassum, recycling sargassum into particle board and pallets.
Yeah.
And so, and there's money behind that. There's green funds specifically earmarked towards recycling and making something productive that would normally end up in a landfill. So if you tap into some of these funds, you can actually get subsidized terms and some tax breaks as well. And that would be the equivalent of looking at opportunities.
We have 25 seconds left. I think the cost of, you're asking for equity capital to be lent out at prime or better lending rates.
Not going to work.
That's just a tough pitch for us to fathom, candidly, while we're sitting around here. I would look for more NGO type investors or county or municipal type investors to back you. But what I think you're doing is beautiful. And like I said, there is opportunity where there's less capital. Yeah.
Look at Waste Management. They've got a venture arm.
Yeah.
Look at all these, garbage firms that have a bad PR. They try to improve their image, and they have funds allocated to this. And then they make a story out of you and they create good PR, but they give you money.
And you're on TV during the Super Bowl too.
Yeah, there's really good opportunity in these parts of the country where there's not capital. I've invested in Louisiana and Alabama and other parts of the country that are, again, away from the coast, and have found really good risk return. You said valuation. I like to think in terms of risk return, and a lot there. So Ron, thanks for the call. I know you're disconnected at this point, but reach out to me on the Owwll app if you want to talk further.
Perfect. That was great.
Sal, you have how did you get 7 stars?
I don't know.
Christopher is 69. He's beating you by quite a bit.
7 reviews. Okay, well, this is amazing, right? That's a great app.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Ron.
Absolute. Oh, super no. Oh, look at that. I didn't even know. So this is what happens when I re-download the app, the new version with the premium, right? I love it. That's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. What's happening, guys?
We got a new caller here.
Okay. Yes, we do. This is Junaid.
Hello,
hi,
welcome.
Junaid.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, guys. Hope you're doing great.
Blessed by your presence, Junaid. How can we help you?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a good friend of Jason, and he's like, "You are watching the stream. You need to come call in." So I'm like, "I'm calling in because I love this guy and I love all the things that he's doing with this platform."
We love him too.
Yes. So what's going on?
So what's going on is I'm a podcaster myself, but I'm looking to build a media school to teach students on podcasting, journalism, video production, like all of the things that is taught in bigger schools. But I want to make it personal. I want to make it for the Muslim audience because I'm a Muslim myself. I know it's a really powerful way to get in front of the audience, the right audience especially. I mean, there's about 2 billion Muslims in the world, so like where's the school that teaches Muslims? So I want to start one here in Northern Virginia. My son already goes to a Islamic school. It's a first high school in the US that is some Muslim high school. So I wanna that's something that I'm looking to do.
Okay, Walter.
Yeah, the first rule is know what market you're going after, and you know your market. So
Mhm.
you know the size, you know
Yeah.
what their
Yeah.
demands and needs and problems that you can maybe try to alleviate are. So
Yeah.
you can come up with good product market fit. Look, I'll tell you, there's not as much focus as you would imagine in the communication space,
Yeah.
unless you have a
Mhm.
university or state college, community college that has a communications department.
Mhm.
I may get branded here, but I've been asking for a podcast studio at the business school, and it's a,
Mhm.
well, we got to see, so that's why I'm kind of here, because I'm very
Yeah.
excited to connect with people, and podcasts are the way. I mean, my school that I went to, I listened to my former professors on their podcasts on a weekly
Mhm.
basis,
Yeah.
and they're connecting with people and taking high concepts, simplifying them so that the audience understands the importance of actually understanding primary sources and
Yeah.
real solutions to problems, as opposed to misinformation and disinformation out there. I'll just put a shout out to the podcast. It's called Capital Isn't, and it's
Mhm.
by Luigi Zingales and Mary Bethan, the author of, if you remember Enron, but way back when. She's an amazing journalist.
Oh wow.
So,
Amazing.
but going back to your point, I mean, there's a huge opportunity, because is there anyone else doing this?
So I don't know about anybody else running a media school in the Muslim space, but I do know, um, uh, what's his name? He just launched Zateo, which is the network. He used to work at funny, I'm skipping his name, but he used to work at MSNBC. They fired him, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to create my own media um, platform,
It's
and
it's
he's
not
blown up.
Zachariah, is it? No, he was at CNN, I
He was
think.
at CNN.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's I'll find out.
Okay. Yeah, latch on to mentors. There's nothing
Mm,
more flattering than to ask someone for coffee and just to pick their brains, and then before you know it, if they connect with you, they'll support you and they'll bring you
absolutely.
along to their contacts and their networks, and that's how you get momentum, right? You tap into
Hmm.
somebody else's coattails, you grab
Yeah,
onto them, and you go where they go, and then eventually you get your own rhythm and you go your own way.
If
I love that.
you want to build a school, start with the curriculum. So
Hmm.
I would write down, or find someone who can help you write down exactly what you want to teach, and take the curriculum, try to attract students with it,
Hmm.
and then I think most importantly, track outcomes.
Yeah.
If you can track outcomes with data, you're going to be well ahead of the curve. As many schools, I'm guessing you're talking about secondary schools, Junaid, but it might be college or
Hmm.
university. But for secondary schools, tracking data and outcomes across a long life cycle, I think, is something that can differentiate you. But my other piece
Yeah.
of feedback is I think you're maybe too double focused in the Venn diagram. So Muslim as well as media. I think I
Hmm.
understand why you think that there's a big overlap in those markets, but perhaps think about creating one or the other would be my advice. Maybe
Mm,
Muslim denominated school, where you want to take those values that you were raised with and that your community is
yeah.
focused around, and try to instill that in a denominational school setting, or
Mm,
focus on a media and a communication school. I think trying to create two focuses might be too focused for you.
right.
I would disagree with you. And I like playing devil's
Okay.
advocate and having a debate here. I think you should try and get after the affinity, because that's the
Mm,
loyalty that you will
Yes.
get through to your building your base. And the
yeah.
more affinity you get, I think the quicker you're going to ramp up. If you try to be everything for everyone, it's too much dilution and wishy-washy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I highly recommend taking a look at affinity programs like women, for example, in venture
Mhm.
capital. Here's the theme, right? So
Oh yeah, that
9
is.
out of 10 funds, males are around and they tend to invest in people like them. So here's a huge movement now in women in venture capital. And they just got together and now they're, as we see in the Florida Venture Capital Conference, they
Mhm.
have their own event that men are not allowed in. And it's a featured event and that attracts, you wouldn't believe how much loyalty. So I think
Yeah.
that the more specific your affinity group, the quicker you're going to get there, and then eventually you're going to broaden out. I think, Ryan, you said something really key, which is what I do actually in my classes. I go to
Mhm.
people that I think extremely highly of, and I ask them for their syllabus. Here's a trick: why
I
reinvent
love
the
it.
wheel? Right?
Yeah.
It's out there
Exactly.
already. So I go to my former professor and I say, "Hey, do you mind sharing this?" They'll be like, "Yeah, sure, no problem," because I'm not competition.
Mhm.
So I take that syllabus, I make it my own, I apply cases that I think will be pertinent to my audience, and I make it mine with my flavor and my style, and I try to
Yeah.
connect with my audience, right? And that's the key: know your audience. And I think you're gonna do well, but
Absolutely.
having a structure is going to be important, because with that structure you'll know exactly what to add and delete, and you're constantly going to be pivoting, right? You're constantly going to be
Yeah.
trying to gather some data on what works, and then focus on what works, and sort of leave aside things that you're not quite sure about, and
Mhm.
you'll immediately know what works. I mean, this is a given. You'll get feedback,
Absolutely.
you'll get more loyalty listeners, and eventually the model should be a subscription model, right?
Yes.
That's how you
Mhm.
pay your bills. And the moment you
Yep.
start showing subscription numbers, that's when you're going to start getting capital, because people
Yeah.
love to see some revenues so that they know you have product market fit. They know that you have potential to grow, and all you need is
Mm.
capital. And
So-
that's
I love that.
what you're all
So you think Junaid can fill a high school with a focused curriculum on Islamic communication?
I think parents will sponsor that
Yeah.
for their
They
children.
will sponsor
Absolutely.
that.
It will.
Absolutely. I think the biggest miss are second generation families, be them Latinos or what have you, and their
Mm.
children don't speak their native language or their parents'
Yeah.
language. I think it's the
Yeah.
biggest miss, because they miss the culture, they miss the ability to one day tap into those markets, whether it's personal or professional. And I see
Mm.
that so often, and I think it's a big miss. So
I love it.
being true to your roots, understanding, appreciating, and then having your own spin on that and saying, yes, I
Yeah.
am Muslim American and I connect with these people because we have a similar, and sometimes we have a dissimilar, but that's where the
Mm.
value comes in, agreeing to disagree sometimes, right?
100%.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, today influencers are the new investment bankers. I hate to say it, but and people today, I mean, it's like it's kind of, I was talking to someone about this last week, and they're like, so and so doesn't have a Facebook account, not on social media, and that just sounds shady today. It really does.
Mm. Like
We're
I
all
can't see
forced
their
onto
past.
it. Yeah, it's shady. But I think the moment, oh my goodness, we have royalty here. Come on in. Anyway, what I would
I disagree. I
You think
took
so?
my Facebook profile off because I have students and I don't want them to know
Well,
what the hell
you're
I'm
in a
up to.
different industry, but for
Yeah.
people who are
Yeah.
building a brand, who are younger, who are Muslim, they don't know what to do, and they need to follow.
Yeah.
They need to build followers here, and they need to be. I think you need to have your own media today. And the greatest example of this is Kim Kardashian launching like a very, I don't know, I would
Mhm.
say high
It's like
level
a girl walks in
brand.
here and they're not even paying attention.
How are you?
I
Thank
appreciate
royalty.
you. Come back, Kim Kardashian.
We're answering
like,
questions here live. We're answering questions live.
I know who you're
No,
talking to.
no, you are amazing. How are you?
Do I need these? This is
Forbes,
my
you
hair.
are right. Thank you
I
so
can
much.
hear you just fine.
All right, you can.
Tell me who
Perfect.
I'm talking with. And you guys, I totally interrupted. That's one of
That's
the things that
okay.
I'm known for.
Interrupting people. Pattern interrupt.
Junaid has 20 seconds left.
Okay,
I'm
wait,
going to
let's go,
say
let's
get.
go.
I'm going to
Yeah,
say get funding from government sources. I would say go look for overseas sources
Yeah.
of capital. Qataris have funded U.S. education here. There are countries who are willing to fund the type of
Yeah.
studies that you're trying to promulgate here. I would say
get a syllabus.
yeah, get a syllabus and go look for funding from some of the offshore sources in your remit.
Good luck.
Perfect.
Good
I'm a huge
job.
fan of education. I
Oh
think
my
that's the best
gosh.
investment you can make.
Yeah, I think so too, and it's needed. It's a great business plan, great target.
Is that your guy?
That is my husband.
Oh wow, hunky.
So
All right.
Joshua is an award-winning bodybuilder. national
Okay,
champion.
I see that. Okay.
And then I have a fun thing. I just got a medal in the Arnold Fitness competition.
Did
as
you
well.
really?
Yeah, lost 30 pounds, 15% body fat, changed my entire life, and now can rock a bikini on stage.
Wow.
Well,
Done.
not all of us can do that, but
I
that is-
But I would love to see you do that just for the hell of it. It'd be fun.
Oh,
I-
sling it. No.
So this is actually very exciting. Will you tell me who I'm looking at and to reintroduce our audience? Guys, just so you know, I'm Forbes Riley. I'm a regular on Owwll. I love Jason and all that he's building. I'm in the middle of between speaking in Miami and speaking in Boca in about an hour in front of 200 people. But I had to pop in and just be crazy and disruptive.
Thank you for
Came
coming.
from Miami as well.
Yeah,
Oh, what a nice trip on 95.
I know.
You see the car turned over?
No, we were a little north of that, but I heard
Okay.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My helicopter's in the shop. Otherwise,
Oh my
Every
goodness. So wait, so
Friday.
tell me first names because I don't know who I'm talking to.
Hey, Forbes, Ryan Ochs, really nice to meet you.
Ryan.
I invest and advise in founder-owned businesses doing 10 to a billion of revenue.
Oh, I love meeting you.
Ooh.
Ryan, the money man.
Yes, he is. I'm Sal Buscemi. I run a multifamily office with my partner. We invest in earlier stage life science and some tech companies that are a little later stage too.
Are you all in this on this coast here?
Yeah,
You all
we're
seen
in
my
Miami.
commercial for the heart scan, the free heart scan that we do that's saving lives?
No.
No, we don't.
Oh, I will share with that. Yeah, life scan. I will tell you what, I've had it and it actually saved my life.
I feel like a pitch coming.
well,
No, not a pitch. I'll tell you what, it's a free scan.
Oh,
You don't
okay.
even pay for it.
Walter O'Leary.
Hi, Walter.
I invest in infrastructure, anything that's data related, power related, and I'm an adjunct faculty at University of Miami, the business school. I teach
love
the
that.
fintech class, and I'm co-teaching private equity this semester.
What an exciting group of guys. And I've grossed a little over $2.5 billion in my career pitching on television and helping startups go to home shopping and infomercials. But not like you guys are doing. They're like kind of like legit. I'm like the show business. Version.
Nah,
I'll tell
no.
you, I have a lot of respect for you. I did a little tiny TV program. Let me tell you, for every 15 seconds on air, they're like a lot of time behind.
Yes.
That it's just dead space. You need to have a lot of patience.
Are we allowed to share your age? Because it was public. It was on Google. So
You
Oh.
can share my age because apparently my age got out to Medicare and it calls me every day. I am turning 65 years old.
No way.
look amazing.
Young.
Wow.
I had no
Young.
fucking it's old. Excuse my French. If I had known that this was 65, I wouldn't have cared. And I will tell you how this happened. And I'm here because I get to be a role model because I'm probably as old as some of your moms. Who knows?
No.
No.
Don't look.
no,
Don't.
no.
Do I look like your mother?
No.
But I worked with Jack LaLanne for decades.
Oh yeah.
Grossed $1 billion selling juicers. His wife survived him. She's turning 99 this year. I was at her house when I crossed over to 60, and I was feeling pretty sad because everyone tells you in society 60 is old, and when you're 20, it's almost near death, right? When you're 59, somehow 60 is not so old anymore. And she said to me, how old am I on the cover of this book? She was wearing leg warmers and a leotard. And I said, I don't know, you look like you're 45. She said, I'm 64. She said, my 60s were my best decade. Don't screw it up. And I will tell you something happened. It literally said, I'm going to take that and live my life like I'm my 20s. My husband is 17 years younger.
I was going to say, well done.
Yeah, nice.
Yes,
Nice.
he did end
Well
up
done
with,
for you, sir.
Yes.
I could go on and on about our love story as all of you, but it's fun to share that. Thank you for asking. Why did you ask my age?
I didn't ask. I looked it up and
Oh.
I didn't believe it. I Googled you in advance of you coming on the show to do a little bit of homework. And
Thank you.
I said, I don't believe that this beautiful woman is 64 years old, but here we are.
It is kind of
You're
fun.
going to have to teach me your secrets collectively and maybe prep me for bodybuilding post 40.
Post
Oh.
40. Oh my gosh.
Sal?
Forbes. I just turned 50 2 months ago.
And what a
So
party that was.
yeah, that was a party in
Was it?
Miami
Good
Beach.
time.
Thank you. That was great. Yeah. We had a good time. But yeah, I think I hear a lot of people today, like, during the pandemic, they say 60 is the new 30. People are, matching up with younger men, women, like
there is a thing-
there is a change in society today. Right?
There is a thing about biohacking your body.
Yeah.
RFK
Yep.
Jr. is now finally just bringing to light the fact that the foods that we eat might be aging us and killing us and be the source of what's going on with us. I've been screaming that forever and just talking about how do you live your life differently from when you're a kid and when you feed your kid I grew up eating Frosted Flakes and whole milk and bologna sandwiches. My
Look at
parents
you now.
well, my parents both died at 70 because somebody told them cigarettes were okay in the 40s.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah.
So I love being a beacon of that as Joshua. Joshua has an interesting story too, because he was in a motorcycle accident 5
Oh.
years ago
Ooh.
as COVID was happening and lost all of his muscles, sat in a wheelchair for 6 months. He then built it all back to enter the Olympia, win first place in the Arnold. I mean, it's been an amazing journey. And I
Well
often
done.
say for all of you guys, and not joking about entering a bodybuilding, my first competition was at 64. I have 2 medals now. One of them is from the Arnold. And it's a funny idea to go, wait, could you own your body? Could you change it? Could you not let it run you? And as a businesswoman who owns 2 businesses, man, I could work all day long, 18 hours a day. And I was doing that. And the universe put me in a really bad bus accident in Iceland this month. And my face went through the glass onto the street. And it was a wake-up call. And I literally now say to people, don't let a bus fall on you before you decide that this is the only body you get. What you put in your mouth, you have 100% control over. Yet we don't do it for all kinds of reasons. So I think I'm here. I didn't die last year. And I am incredibly grateful for not being a byline on Facebook. We've all seen those. We've all lost friends. It's like, you're sad for a day and then it's over. I'm committing the rest of my life to helping everybody understand what's possible.
I love that. What part of society do you think has changed where people today, because let's face it, my grandmother never worked out. She didn't look like you at her age, right? So what do you think? Do you think social media has put more of an onus on your personal brand and how you look? I mean, everybody's using filters. Obviously you don't, but like there are people I meet at conferences, and let me just tell you, when I see them in real life, they don't look like you. You know, it's like their high school picture, or they don't look the same. But do you think that there's a lot of social pressures today to be able to do that?
Oh, insane social pressure for I'm so glad I'm not a teenager, because that would be insane.
Yeah.
But there's more access to everything. I've been doing saunas, by the way, since I
started doing
16
that
years old.
recently.
All of a sudden now it's a fad.
At 49.
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
But you understand the concept of detoxing.
Yes.
I mean, I was crazy enough. I've been on an ashram. I've been a vegetarian. I've been a vegan. I've been on every fast you've ever done, all through my 20s, 30s, and 40s. There's a book that was written, I think, in the 40s called Back to Eden. It's a really thick book, and somebody gave it to me. God bless them. Sat right next to the Bible, Back to Eden. But Back to Eden is how you fast, how you drink, what you put in your body. And in fact, here's the next thing we're discovering. This is horrible. You know what's horrible about it?
Microplastics.
The microplastics in our brain. This sits outside, gets
and other
warm.
places, but yeah.
Yeah, and all of a sudden we're looking, going, wow, that's interesting technology. I remember my father saying, that water bottle thing, that'll never work. Yeah, it costs more than gasoline. And then we all adopted it. We all adopt a lot of interesting things as a collective. Learning to think for yourself is probably the best thing you can do.
Well, it's also the hardest thing to do. The hardest thing in the
very
world.
well
I think,
said.
Henry Ford said that the hardest thing in the world is for people to think.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I only drink from glass bottles when I can.
Well, I mean,
So we're gonna have to upgrade Jason for the next visit.
Well,
Jason,
but it's an interesting concept, because this is everywhere, and we're just not aware of it. You guys have kids?
Celsius is aluminum.
yeah, Celsius is aluminum, maybe a little bit of brain damage, but that's okay.
You know, here's the thing. The other thing, we're all going to go at some point anyway. You're going to die of something. You should also enjoy your life.
Well, the balance is
the
important.
key. That's the key. I had a very nice lunch at 60 Vines, an Aperol spritzer.
Explains a lot about your behavior, Walter.
Well, it's about enjoyment. Look, I made it through I-95 on the way up here, so I had to celebrate some victories.
You were the most sober driving.
So you guys all know each other. Just I'm like a part of the boys club, and I feel very honored to do that.
Well, we're honored to have you.
Yeah.
That way you balance things out, right?
Yeah, I've got enough testosterone.
You
for all
have
of
taken over. You have taken over this conversation.
You have taken it over.
So let's balance it a little bit and try to get a little perspective from the women's side. Do you invest in businesses, and do you seek out women-owned businesses?
Yes.
No, I am not. You know, that's an interesting conversation. I'm in business with my daughter.
Right.
My daughter became the CEO of my company at 17, not a college graduate, not a high school graduate. She made her first million by the time she was 18.
Right.
And I invest in people who are smart, outrageous thinkers. Why does sex matter in terms of you having business acumen? I have twins. She made the million first, and her twin brother, who decided to go to college, is like, wait a second, I'm 200,000 in debt. You're 2 million above. What's going on here? And I don't see the difference. I see each of us, by the way, should have a female and male balance. So I'm happy to invest in male businesses of color. I know we want to give opportunities to certain people. I love profit-making businesses, people who have a business plan and a financial statement. People come all the time and go, Forbes, would you invest in my business? I simply say 3 things. Send me your business plan, your financials, and all of the investment documents. How few people ever follow through with that, okay? That's the first thing. So it's got to be a sound plan. I'm also used to taking pretty much startups onto home shopping. I have a very good track record that if you hired me to take your product, you said, this is the product, you got this little microphone thing you want to, I can pretty much tell you if the masses is going to buy it. I don't know why, but it is my zone of genius about mass marketing.
That's incredible.
Your Forbes, Lori, Shark Tank.
So hold on, I'm a boy girl twin for what it's worth.
Oh, are you really?
I didn't know this. Okay.
You're
I
just
am.
learning this now?
Yeah.
But I love investing in businesses. I've been doing this forever. You know, I've had a chance to sit at the table a lot. I sat with Jeff Hoffman, who's the creator of Priceline. Him, myself, and Evander Holyfield did a kind of a Shark Tank type thing. I'm doing one now with Scott Valentine and a couple of other TV people. Everybody needs something. They don't always need money, though. They need education. I'm on a TV series called 60-Day Hustle, which I would love to recreate little hustles, because we put these young entrepreneurs, men and women, through a 60-day challenge. You know, can you get 1 million views on something in a week? I mean, literally today's kind of challenges. And I will tell you, the woman who ended up winning this just got it. And it was fun to watch, but a couple of people fell off because they couldn't deal with the pressure. And so a great idea has to be followed by the great right people to run the company.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been the Achilles tendon. I mean, everybody's had bad partners, and one of the things they taught us at Goldman was, about partnership back when I started and you started, was that you never let your partner down. And I think sometimes people partner with people who they don't really know. They're good friends, they're drinking buddies, but there's not a lot of depth behind it. And I also think Shark Tank has done this nation a tremendous disservice by thinking every idea is we can talk about that for a while, is a great idea, right? And it's amazing. We have this convention now that I coined at the Florida Venture Conference, and it's called the Deck Picks. Like, you give someone your cell phone number, and all of a sudden you get like a 30-page deck. Like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, whoa, I didn't want this. It's unsolicited. I'm kind of like, it's awkward. And that's what people are doing today. I think, they think that, going up to people who are successful, using them as an ATM is not really it. I think people have left the relationships. Oh boy, here we go.
We got a fish that's so cute.
We got a fish. Welcome, happy Friday. Welcome to Financial Fridays on the Owwll app.
Hi.
Hi.
Singer, songwriter, performer. Wow.
Yes, that, but also part of the Owwll app as well.
Okay.
So I actually had a couple questions, general questions about, like, just kind of pitching, I guess, to investors. So in terms of valuation, when people ask you what the valuation of your company is, I feel like it can be difficult sometimes when you don't really know. Like if someone asked, Mark Zuckerberg, what's the valuation of Facebook? Like, in its early stages, would he really have an answer? So if someone, I guess, for Owwll, for example, if someone asks what the valuation is, do you think the best way is to just say, like, I'm not really sure, or just kind of make up a random number?
No, you should you should have a view. Jason's priceless, and Al is priceless from my perspective. But all jokes aside,
Wait, no, why do you say that? And then it's not joking.
Nah,
it's
he's joking.
interesting. No,
well,
Well,
look,
because I could just say 10 million. You know what I mean? With just, we don't really know.
But let me get. I was being somewhat facetious on the priceless comment, but generally speaking, at an early stage, valuation is as much a function of dilution you're willing to take as what quantifiable metrics you have, because you may not have quantifiable metrics. So you as owners want to make sure you're not diluting yourselves too much. There are heuristics or benchmarks as to how much dilution you should be taking in a relative early stage. So I would focus on that. I would focus on dilution as a heuristic for how much value your company should have. In other words, if you didn't want to give up much more than 10% of your company, but you needed $1 million, that would back into a $10 million valuation.
Okay. I'm writing this down. I'm taking notes.
Let me disagree with you again, Ryan. And this is good, actually. So
Juicy.
I always say, who do you want to become? And then you have your benchmark, right? And who you want to become, you kind of follow their track record, follow how they got started, and you kind of get a sense for how much you can grow. And then you be realistic. Look, I'd rather take money from a smart investor at a lower valuation, right? Than somebody that has money that doesn't care because he or she may actually make your life miserable and they're not going to add any
Right.
value. And once you have them as an investor,
You,
it's like a marriage.
it's marriage.
You cannot,
Yeah.
it really is. And
And how many of
so
those end well?
very
Sorry.
seldom, very seldom. I can tell you for a fact. So this is the
Okay.
key. You need to know where you're positioning your company. Who are going to be your
Okay.
clients, right? How are you going to get paid? And you kind of
Yeah.
get a sense for who else is out there and what are they doing and how much are they getting paid? And then you extrapolate. Okay, I'm just getting
Yeah.
started. I'm going to get a good investor that understands my story, that can actually help me along the way, smart investor.
Mhm.
And you start humble, because it's not
Mhm.
about what you value the company initially. It's where you're going to go and how much your pie is going to grow, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
the initial capital, you can do it in a safe. So it's
Mhm.
basically for future equity. You're not actually giving any equity. It's just an IOU. And it's a very
Open-ended.
Okay.
customary.
Open-ended IOU.
Yeah, it's just a very common form that
Mhm.
Kui
Entrepreneurs. Yeah.
built out in San Francisco, and the law firm, and you can download it anywhere. It's SAFE, and everybody accepts
Okay.
that on an angel level. And you make it very
Okay.
reasonable, very, very reasonable. And then one of the things you want to tap into, I think Forbes is getting to this, it's an accelerator program. Find out what you
Mhm.
want to do and find out accelerators that actually have had companies that you want to do have gone through, because they already
Mhm.
have a track, a path that they've gone through, and investors that have actually looked at something similar. So don't recreate the
Mhm.
wheel. Find out what is out there first, and then you put your plan together. Because trust me, if you come up with, I don't know, or maybe this, you're going to not be prepared, and it's going to come across. And it's just as bad as what Sal mentioned, that you say hello and somebody sends you the deck. That's kind of desperation.
Yeah.
I always
Yeah.
say, get to a place where you're going to be fundable. Don't ask for funding. If you get to a place
Yeah.
where you're fundable, it means you've done your research, you've highlighted your risks, and how you're going to be mitigating those risks
Mhm.
or offsetting those risks. Make it easy for the investor to say, you know what? I like you, I
Yeah.
trust you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I know you're going to do the right thing
Yeah.
for me. The old Goldman expression.
Yeah. No, I like you. I trust you. Yeah, and long-term greedy too.
Yeah,
I I'm gonna go off and tell you some disasters and what you don't want to do. People who are desperate for money usually attract desperate people.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
if anyone wants to come on your, be an advisor or want to have a say on it, no offense, I know you're a lawyer, but there's a lot of lawyers out there who are looking for a new identity. They're unhappily married, and what they're doing is they're trying to tell their friends that they're advising startups and things like that. But the problem is that they don't have deep enough pockets to help you. So the guy that
Mhm.
sends you $50,000, is he going to be able to do that again for you when things happen?
Mhm.
Because these are continuing. You're feeding the cow continuously here. There are a lot of venture studios out there too. Depending on, I don't know anything about your business, but just going off of this, but if you're able to nail it down, socialize it, bury the ego, and say, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Then when you have the confidence of maybe 3 or 4 people telling you that you have a good valuation, then you can start going to these venture studios.
Mm,
Mhm.
interesting.
And I
I
guess
should-
I'm curious. Oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
go
Actually,
ahead.
Ellie, it's funny. I know you, and
Yeah.
singer songwriter performer. I know a lot of entrepreneurs. I want to know where we should send young entrepreneurs for an MBA for real life, because there's so many things that we just don't know. And you're asking such
Mhm.
wonderful questions. Like
Yeah.
you said, the Shark Tank people have no idea when they get in
No.
there that sharks are real and investing is real, and how does real big business work, and how does corporate structure lay out. I got to tell you, most of my beautiful entrepreneurs, and Ellie, I fall in the same category sometimes, don't really understand how real business works.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We need to get
Mhm.
educated.
So do you have a pitch for us, Ellie?
Yeah, Ellie.
Ooh.
Well, to be honest, I mean, I work with Owwll, so that's the app that I'm talking about. I didn't want to get, I know you guys know Jason, but I'm really just, so yes, I'm a singer songwriter, but I've also made a lot of connections for my music career on Owwll, and I actually own a portion of the company now, and I've been helping Jason push the app, and so I'm really just trying to figure out the right questions. This is all new to me. So I'm trying to figure out the right questions to ask, really what to say to investors, because this is the first time I've done this. But also, what do you guys look for? I know a lot of people have asked us for a pitch deck as well.
Wait, Ellie, don't
like,
waste your time. Be very intentional. What are you pitching right now? I mean, I'm looking at Jason here. What are you guys looking for the
Yeah.
app? Because as an investor, I don't know.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Right. Well, so yeah. So right now we are looking for about 3 million to help fund the app. And what we would spend that on is basically more people like me, brand ambassadors we found have grown our app the most, have grown our user base. So if we had 10 of me or 20 of me pushing the app out to other people, you know, we've already grown it to 9,000 just on our own. We believe that this could be grow to 50,000, 100,000, be as big as the next LinkedIn.
Do you have to pay influencers like you?
Well, we are thinking of maybe giving influencers a little bit of equity rather than instead of cash. So,
Ooh, I
but
wouldn't
I
do
don't.
that, no.
That's what we've been told.
No,
It's really Jason's decision, but you know, we're kind of back and forth because we don't at this moment have the cash to give them. We've been toying with the idea of giving them small percents of equity, or if we did have an investor, that would obviously change the game. But yeah, not really sure. Like
Well,
I said,
you know,
I'm new to
will tell
this.
you, it's funny. I will tell you an equity equation that worked when we did Mission Cool Towels. We set out and we got Serena Williams
Yeah.
and a lot of other major basketball and football players, and we took a 10% piece of the pie and we cut it up between all of them and based on performance. So it could never be more than 10% of us.
Yeah.
But however, it swung was based on their performance. That model worked really well because it did not dilute the entire big investing pie.
Yeah.
And incentive, incentivizing.
I don't know. If you start
That's a
giving
good
away
idea.
slugs of equity to influencers, it's not the same as cash, and I don't know if they're going to be motivated to do much. And a lot of them, I think people today, the influencers, a lot of them, we were talking about this earlier, Jason, they have fake followers, right? They, you know, you have 1 million followers. How come there's only 10 people on the call, right? Like it just doesn't make sense.
For sure.
Yeah, but I would, you know, I would, even with Jason looking him in the eye, I mean, I can make a referral to a venture studio that might be interested in doing something like this. But remember,
and you know what? In your 28 seconds, at least you open up the conversation.
Thank you
Now we're
so
talking
much.
about it. Yes,
I
that's
know.
what you wanted to do.
28 seconds left.
I know 20 seconds. Well, thank you guys.
Walter
do you have
has
anything
something.
else?
Hold on.
Walter, 10 seconds. I'm going to give you a little.
I can also add time if we need to, but
I'm going to give you a golden nugget here, Ellie.
Okay.
Content. You need to have good content. And by that, I mean content that helps people out, identify what they want to do, how they want to go about doing it, and also aspirations. Like, how can I get there from here? I think that value is going to be a lot more valuable than getting influencers, because influencers, you have no idea what they're capable of doing. Instead, if you focus on the content and actually providing good quality content that's not misinformation or disinformation, but rather from primary sources and your personal experience, people will connect with you.
Yeah.
And when they connect with you, they'll follow you.
You build a community.
And when they follow you, they'll look you up and they'll support you and refer you to others. And that's how you control your audience and your business, by having that direct relationship, not fake, because fake comes one day and disappears the next, and your dollars never come back.
Yes. Okay. It's all good advice.
You know, and I'll give you just one little piece of advice. So one of the things that I'm focusing and drilling down on is technically, verbally, how to pitch. I pitched on television my whole life. We spent $13 million on a 1-minute commercial in the Super Bowl. I'm listening to the words that you used. And Ellie, I'm going to say this for everyone else listening. Every word matters.
Yeah.
You said we need about 3 million because we are basically blah, blah, blah. You don't need about. We need 3 million. Be definitive. Take out the words that include actually, basically, like, you know, and we're trying to do something.
Yeah.
And I literally coach CEOs and sales teams to remove these words, because as you were talking, it was diminishing your own credibility. Not that you're not credible, but the way you positioned it, you don't need about. I need 3.1 million. What do you need 0.1 for? I'll tell you exactly what I need it for. Yeah. And that level of intention at this level of pitching becomes crucial.
Yeah, even if the number were to change at the margin, showing intentionality and having confidence in it builds credibility, to Forbes' point.
Okay. Thanks.
Good luck.
Yeah, we're rooting for you. We're here. We're giving a hoot.
We're here.
Thanks.
So what other advice? I attract a lot of young entrepreneurs. What would you say? They know nothing about business. It's kind of an interesting thing. They think they do.
You know, I don't like working with young entrepreneurs.
You can't say that. Not all of them are alike.
I mean, I like them. Some of them I am. I do
a little coaching.
The hate mail is coming.
No, here it comes. I mean,
but when you say that, what do you mean?
The problem is that I've seen this before, and what they run into, Forbes, is that you have an ego, and they think they're the next Jeff Bezos, and they don't make good decisions, and they're mostly fronting and flexing. And they're not focusing on what needs to be done, which is moving the needle, because they don't know that themselves.
So who do you love working with?
Seasoned founders who have had multiple exits.
Yes.
If you're going to have open heart surgery,
Right.
do you want the guy who's done 50,000 surgeries, or the one who's going to give you a free toaster because he graduated from med school in
Right.
Grenada?
And the problem with everybody who graduates from med school, even the guy who graduated last in the class, still called a doctor.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at where that got America, right?
Well, look, my gripe with young founders is most of them haven't managed people, and to run a business, you need to manage people and to understand what it means to look someone in the eye and give them critical managerial feedback. A lot of these people don't have, particularly when they're younger than them. These things can cause issues. Companies are nothing more than a bunch of people running around doing stuff.
Yeah.
To be able to teach, guide, and train, you have to have a little bit of experience, is my view, Sal.
And I think so too. And it's also a function of the culture, right? Like the people who you work with, that's the culture that you have. And that a lot of these guys, they hire their friends. It never works out. There's all sorts of issues because they create a quagmire with themselves by promising equity to people who are not motivated. And, you know, you see this all the time with law firms. Like one partner's not pulling his weight, you know, as far as the revenue is concerned. So, you know, it takes a lot of maturity. And I think, you know, with the right, you know, if you have a guy like Walter O'Leary over here who's looking over your shoulder, it works, but he's doing God's work, right? You're going to have a special place in heaven compared to me because of this.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've learned a lot from my students, and it keeps me on my toes because technology is having a massive impact on absolutely everything that we do day in and day out. So I learn from them, and I actually get a lot of motivation and really empathy because they have been bombarded from the moment they grew up with a smartphone on their hand with information. And so you kind of feel for them, but you also have to give them a little bit of coaching. And let me give you some examples. So the younger generations think that by working hard, they're going to get a trophy. And I always say, you know, when students approach me and say, hey, but my effort was astounding. I deserve an A. And I say, you know what? You get an A because you actually did astounding work, not because you gave it all your best, because sometimes that's just not good enough.
No, it's not good enough.
Yeah.
Not everybody, it's survival of the fittest. And a lot of people don't realize that until they start swimming in the deep end on their own. We have someone here. Who do we have?
Welcome. How are we doing on this fantastic day?
Beautiful. What's your name? Where are you from?
Michael Maldonado. I am from Laguna Beach, California. I saw you on Owwll.
Nice.
Wow.
How's the weather out there? Are you guys better?
Yeah, we suffer.
Yeah.
And I saw that you do funding and you do money for investing.
Depends on the opportunity. Why don't you tell us what you got? Sounds like there's some commercial real estate in our pitch future.
Here we go.
Yeah. Commercial real estate, what is wanted changes, but you have to just look ahead a year from what is now versus what is needed.
Do you have a pitch for us, Michael?
Pardon me?
Do you have a pitch for us?
We're looking to put in 55 plus communities.
Okay.
And here's why. When I first moved out of my parents' house, my one bedroom in Pasadena was $100. Now a two bedroom on the coast is $4,500. We are literally pricing out the senior citizens from Orange County, LA County. And we have 3 pieces of land that we have access to, and we want to put 55 plus ADUs, and the counties are willing to pay us Section 8.
You have the development rights to the land? You've secured the development rights?
We're going to buy the land.
Okay, so let's know. When you say we, who's we?
Yeah. We have a trust fund set up to buy. We have a nonprofit, and the funds go into the nonprofit to buy the land. Then, literally, these ADUs, all we have to do is grade it, put the electric, and put the plumbing.
I mean, it's a little more than that, right? I mean, this is full scale development. You're taking the land from nothing. I mean, I don't know how it's currently zoned right now, and then you're bringing it through the entire development
Yeah,
process or entitlement process. So you're, and especially in California, with what's happening right now, that's going to take 5 years at least.
and
I
I
mean,
mean,
that's a long
people
time.
are not going to get any younger, and rents are going to keep going up. Prices of homes are going to keep going up.
Yeah, that's the American way, especially in Southern California.
Hmm.
I think also, like, if I was a municipality, I would be looking for the highest and best use for tax revenue coming in. And I don't know if I'm going to be getting a 55 and above community to really pay a lot of taxes. And also
But
California is very,
people have gotten voted out of office right now for not having affordable housing.
Rightly so.
rightly so. However, I just
And
don't see that changing. And also there's a huge timeline for being able to bring something into production too. And you don't know where you'll be in the economic cycle 5 years from now.
And you,
we don't need the permits with these ADUs. They actually come fully made, and for example, boxable. They already have all the forms. We take them over to the county and we show them and we say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put 45 of them here.
And have you done this
And
before?
Pardon me?
Have you done this before?
Never.
Is anyone
But
you're working with, have they done this before?
two of the people down in La Jolla have.
Okay.
And that's where about 60% of the money is coming from. And there's a need. There's an honest to God need. We have people in Laguna who were artists that are now pushing shopping carts. So
do you have
the city of Laguna gave the council people $5 million to figure out how to do affordable housing with what little land they have. So cities are willing to put up the money.
I think you need some experience too. Do you have any of these guys in La Jolla? Would they be willing to do something in Laguna? Would they be able to navigate the whole process?
We don't want to do Laguna. The price of the property is too expensive. We're looking up the Central Coast.
All right. I mean, the same thing happens. I mean, these guys have experience. Experience wins. Would they be interested in working with you in this project?
Oh, absolutely. They're part of the nonprofit.
Have you talked to them yet about doing this?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And
How large is the trust fund that you were talking about?
We have 10 million.
when you say we have 10 million, who's we? And
exactly,
can you stroke the check from that trust fund tomorrow if we needed you to?
The trust fund is our nonprofit. The money's in there for the nonprofit, and it's designated for the properties to go out and get things done.
Who's us? You said
The
our
people in a nonprofit.
You also mentioned the concept of boxable, which are pre-made, prefabbed houses.
Right.
What is the cost of one of those units?
Good question.
It depends. Their smallest one, the 1 bedroom, 1 bath, runs about 85. The ones that are bigger run about 110.
Interesting math.
So that's very feasible. And they're willing to sell it to you. And since we're a nonprofit, they're willing to have us pay over time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little out of my pay grade, but I don't know what to do with this here. I just know it's very prohibitively difficult to do business in California, and we purposely do not.
It's better than Texas.
Well, I mean,
that's why we're here in Florida.
That's why we're in Florida.
I would say, Michael, do the math. I think that's where Forbes is trying to take you. So if you could buy, if you want to buy 50 of these homes at 100,000 rough numbers a pop, that gets you $5 million. The other 5 million is going to have to go in theory to build and develop the land. Yeah. So it sounds like you kind of have your math made for you, and maybe the city of Laguna is able to pitch in with its $5 million fund allocation. And I would try to bring this to them in some sort of presentable way. Here's the cost. Here's how much money we have allocated. Here's how much money is going to come from the city and the like, and come up with a zoning and property plan around this.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, Laguna isn't where we want to be. It's just there is no empty land. That's their problem. But what used to be farmland north Morro Bay no longer is useful farmland. They don't have people for the labor and there's no water. So it's perfect for doing what we want.
no water.
No. I mean, that's
No,
part-
I mean,
you need to have water.
California,
Yeah.
California used to get 16 inches of water rain a year, and now it's down to about 11. You're having meetings right now as we speak with the 7 states that get the water out of the
Rio Grande.
out of the Colorado River.
Sorry, Colorado. Thank you.
And Washington, D.C. has already said that they're going to screw
Same
up the
thing, just different
process.
part of the world.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah. Well, Washington, D.C. has already said they're going to screw up the process.
Well,
And
okay.
so there's going to be no water for farming.
So how are you going to feed the senior citizens? Any water for them?
What people should be worried about is how is the rest of the country going to
I don't
eat
know.
what used to be grown in
Going
California?
a little long.
Michael, we want to take a moment and say thank you so much for
Thank
calling
you.
and bringing awareness to the fact that senior citizens 55 and older
Agree.
need affordable housing.
In Southern
Actually
California.
in California. Well, all over the entire country.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank
I'm
you.
about to lose you.
Okay,
You guys are welcome to find me on my LinkedIn page and continue this.
Wonderful.
Thank,
Thank
you, Michael.
Good luck.
So
All right,
people are watching us here. We're streaming right now, not only on Owwll, but also, is that Facebook?
Yeah. Everything.
There you go.
Yeah.
I actually want to say something about affordable housing, and this is something that I have a bit of an issue with a lot of politicians. And I go to my city hall meetings and I speak to my mayor. It's a cop out to say that we need to build affordable housing. What needs to happen is the infrastructure, transportation to and from their home to work, from home to schools. Make it easy for people to get to their place of destination, and they don't have to live in a city where it's expensive. They can be a little bit more on the outskirts,
Yeah.
but you need to build that infrastructure. You need to build the school system, the healthcare system around them, so they don't have to go on a 1-2 hour commute and then obviously face hardship as a result of that. So all these politicians, if you're listening, you need to invest in infrastructure. Because if you don't, you're never going to fix this issue of affordable housing. It's an infrastructure call.
It is.
Which
And
is
you need
gonna
to
lead
stop
that very next
taxing.
episode. You guys, I have to leave, unfortunately.
No. Are you
I-
kidding?
I love this. This is so sweet.
Why are you leaving?
I'm the keynote.
You're leaving us alone
I am
here?
the keynote speaker.
Of course you
tonight
are.
At a
Yes.
very big event.
Of course you are.
And no, I'm very excited about this. It's called the Millionaire Weekend.
Okay.
And as the keynote speaker, but I do have a request.
Yes.
I am looking to help fund the TEDx Boca. And I've got to say, there's a picture. You guys can see my $1 million message up there.
Oh yeah. I saw that on the
yeah. I'm excited. I came over. I live in Tampa, Florida, so I'm here visiting and making the rounds. I'm going to come do this again. You guys have been brilliant, and I do think there's a lot of
There's no hurricanes in Miami and
whatever. But there's terrible traffic. No, I love it over here. And I also love the conversation. It's a very smart, intelligent conversation where I think you go in a lot of different directions. I
Yeah.
also think you would help a lot of entrepreneurs who have great ideas, but don't have the teamwork, don't have the framework, don't have the expertise. And maybe that's part of the mentorship that you guys get to give back.
yeah.
But what I was going to say is one of the things that I'm on a mission as of this morning is to help sponsor TEDx Boca. Looking for top sponsors, only $10,000. And you get your name everywhere. And I'm excited because I love TEDx as a platform. So that just became available to me and to several other investors, but I would throw it out to you guys. Ideas worth spreading.
I think that's great. And I think we'll end it here. Is that all right, Jason?
Well, I won't wait. One more thing.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Uh-oh.
Well,
The,
well, it is
the
the
Celsius is kicking in.
it totally.
I got another deal. Hold on. Let me send you
Well,
a deck
can I
right
tell
now.
you something about Celsius? All right, so here's the problem with Celsius. Celsius, God bless them. I was there. I got offered 10 cents a share. I got given 100,000 shares at 10 cents. And my partner said, don't take it for the tax implications. When it hit $450, I thought maybe I need a new tax advisor.
Yes.
Yeah, blew that one. Love you guys, though. Thanks.
Oh my gosh, that's a horror story.
Oh, I have a couple of those.
Yeah, we all do.
Well, that's the things that you don't know.
The
can kill you.
telenovela for venture financing. We can do that another
That is
episode.
actually real. I know
Yeah.
a lawyer that had to sell his home because he actually exercised those options and they tanked. And he had a massive obligation with the IRS. Let me tell you, he had to sell his home.
No, that happened to a lot of people during the last tech crunch.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Bubble.
all right, the bubble in 01, there were a lot of people who exercised their options and they were like millions of dollars owed to the IRS.
So I certainly appreciate that. In 2 weeks, guys, I'm doing a pitch off in I own a television studio.
Do you?
It's called the Ultimate.
Are you
Pitch Off.
inviting us?
I would love to have you guys. Are you kidding me?
Well, okay, sure.
Road trip, Owwll road trip. Well, I've already invited Jason and company because we're looking to expand the concept of people at least pitching, getting their ideas out of their head, even if it's a startup. I just want to hear people's ideas. I want to give Shark Tank is nice and all. They hear 50,000 pitches a year, take 200 and fund 4. Legitimately fund 4.
Well, Mark Cuban lost 90 million funding everything he did. I mean,
He can afford it.
he can afford it. I mean, he got
it back on his
Mavericks.
brand.
he got it back on his brand, but
Yeah.
I mean,
That's an interesting conversation.
yeah, I mean, I like to look at exits. None of those guys have had any exits.
No, they
No, are you kidding?
They have, really?
There's the null case. Of
Oh, Ring. Was that really a company?
But they
Yeah,
didn't
Ring
fund
had
it.
Scrub Daddy too.
Oh, okay.
You
Okay.
know what? I would love to have you. Are you good at exits? Is that one of the things that you're?
Yeah, that's what I like.
We'd
yeah.
like to believe that we hit exits every now and
Because
then.
I would love to. I'd love to hear the.
But it's
I'd love to see
tough.
the book. Build the company to exit. I often say begin with the end in mind. That would be a really nice thing because I have a fitness company and unfortunately love my product. Never thought about the exit strategy, and when I built it, had no idea that was a thing.
That's the problem with personal brands. Like, what's Anthony Robbins going to do?
He's going to enjoy the rest of his life, and when it's over, it's over.
Yeah. So, I mean, his kids will get nothing unless they go on stage, but they're not his kids. They're, the second gen.
Okay.
Oh, that's a whole. Wow, did you go to a date with Destiny that didn't work out well?
No. No, I love it, but no, it's a problem. A lot of people put together personal brands, and you can't sell a personal brand.
Well, I guess the question is, do you need a legacy? I say to my kids, I said,
Oh no, you didn't ask
You
me
did.
this
You have
question.
succession planning. You have your daughter now running a business.
Well,
So let her take it to the next level.
I'm going to give you an autographed copy of my third book, Investing Legacy: How the 0.001% Invest.
I would
Okay,
love to hear that.
you would love it because it's going to change your mind.
Yeah, I mean, I come from a blue collar working family who, by the way, I graduated college with 2 degrees in 3 years. Do you know that I did not know what the word CEO meant until I was in my 30s? Because we lived in a blue collar environment where nobody was that. You just worked and you had your little tax savings, you had your little bank account, and none of this high level thinking about business was a part of what we did at all. And maybe it's by design, so the rich stay rich and the rest of the people in the world work really hard.
Things are changing fast.
Yeah?
Yeah, things
All
are
right, I'm
changing.
getting a copy of his book. I win. I'll give you a copy of my fitness product.
I love it. Perfect.
Well, nice meeting everyone.
Nice
here.
meeting everyone. Thank you. I want to thank obviously Forbes, Ryan for coming up with me all the way from Miami. Walter O'Leary, thank you so much, Jason, for having us.
Yeah, Jason, come on over here. Come on, come back.
on over here.
Come back here because you are the genius that put this together. A very self-funded operation, hardest working man in podcast history. Yes.
Absolutely.
Anything you want to say?
And now mobile app history. Come
There you go.
on.
Come on,
We're
mobile app.
we're going to impact billions of people one
You're
day.
already doing it, my friend.
Right. We're at 9,000 people on the app, but the next journey is going to be 100,000, then 1 million, then 1 billion, of course.
10
Look at
hits.
this. That's
It
amazing.
Takes, it takes waking up and showing up every day. I'm very hardworking. You are correct, and I'm very outside the box by thinking about projects like this. While everyone's doing typical social media and influencer marketing, I was like, let's turn it around. Like podcasting is so popular. Why not bring some VCs in this room? And there's so much demand out there to ask these guys some questions. So I'm like, let's go for it.
Yeah,
All right.
it's a
and if
great
you guys want
idea.
to ask me a question every Sunday since COVID happened, go to www.askforbesriley. I spend 2 hours a week on Zoom teaching people how to pitch, being there for questions and answers because it's my way to give back. So on Sunday, certainly reach out to Ask Forbes Riley. Ask me anything. Work on your pitches because when you get to the big guys, if you can't articulate what you say, you're going to walk away.
Take us home, Sal. You're the host of this show.
Thank you very
You're
much
the
for
host.
joining us. Thank you. This is great. We have royalty here. Come on, Forbes.
Ah!
Come on. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we look forward to doing this. Any comments, you can leave them on the apps, right? I mean, on the Owwll app comments. Yeah, we're going to be here every month doing this. So if you're listening, you know anyone who wants to pitch, put them on the Owwll app.
Yes.
And then we would love to talk to them. Thank you very much, guys. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.